Thank you, John. It's hard to know where to start today. There are so many lies, I don't know which lie to start with. One of the problems that I know I'm going to have is trying to explain everything. It's taken me a long time for it all to sort of penetrate this skull of mine. But I'm going to do my best. And I hope that you'll stick with me because this is very important. This is vital stuff that we're talking about. In some cases, what we're talking about here is a matter of life and death. I mean, the lies that we have been and continue to be fed are just astronomical. I mean, you talk about the lies that Donald Trump used to spew all of the time. I I think that particularly the liberal politicians, provincial and federal, will rival all of the lies ever told by Donald Trump. I mean, we've got, well, I don't know how far back we want to go, but I'm sure most of you will remember the Dalton McGuinty lie that green energy in the province of Ontario was going to create 60,000 jobs. Remember that? And that lie was carried forward by Kathleen Wynne. 60,000 jobs, they told us. It's an outrageous lie. They even tried to lie about how many jobs had been created at one given time. I think I and Rob Snow were, maybe Steve Madeley, were the only ones who actually caught them in this lie. And by the way, talking about the lie, if you really want the full story about the 60,000 jobs that green energy was, yeah, maybe 60,000 jobs it created in the United States because a lot of manufacturing sure as hell fled Ontario. But Rob Snow does a wonderful job, and I'm pumping my book here, but you really should read it. I mean, Rob Snow's column article in my book, my latest book, is worth the purchase alone. He goes through it step by step, tells us exactly how it happened, how many jobs were promised, and he's managed to do a lot of research and found out exactly or very close to how many jobs it actually created. And I mean, it's just mind-boggling what happened. So as I say, that's in my latest book, the full accounting just of that lie. And of course, Pierre Poilievre has a very good account of some other lies that we were told about the civic hospital. But I digress. So we had the 60,000 job lie, the great lie. And by the way, John, you'll be happy to know that that the solar panel that you still haven't shoveled off
I'm
up there at
busy.
Kin.
I'm busy.
I had, that it still hasn't been shoveled off. I would have thought that the snow would have cleared some of the snow, or I'm sorry, the rain would have cleared some of the snow off that panel. Because at one point I was told that there were thousands of jobs being created at that solar farm in Kinburn. We found out that in fact there was one guy went once a month and cut the grass. When the grass got so high that it was impeding the sunlight, then a guy would come in and cut the grass. That was the thousands of jobs. And by the way, that the all of the solar panels, the billions of dollars worth of solar panels, talking about lies, the billions of dollars of solar panels right now. Ontario, I know that you get sick of this, but I got it. I mean, come on, we're paying for it. Every time you pay a hydro bill, you're paying for this, folks. 16,000. Wait till I get this right. 16,486 megawatts of power being burned right now. 16,486 megawatts of power, all of Ontario. How much is solar producing? Billions of dollars worth of solar panels that John Melky still hasn't gone out to shovel, or anybody else, apparently. Bugger. 34. 34 megawatts out of almost 17,000 coming from solar. Have you any idea how much you're paying for that? Oh my God. Every single month you're paying for those solar panels, folks. Part of the big lie. And talking about big lies, how many of you can remember the big lie about, well, yeah, we're going to stop building those two gas plants. It may cost us a few votes in the Toronto, Mississauga area. But yeah, we're going to shut them down. I know some of them, or a couple of them, or one of them is about half finished. But it's only going to cost us a couple $1,000. Yeah, very few $1,000 it's going to cost us. What a lie. It was well over $1 billion in the end. But we lied. This was Kathleen Wynne, Dalton McGuinty. Oh, it's only be a few thousand. What a bunch of liars, right? And now, coming into more modern times, how about Trudeau's famous promise that he would only have? Remember Stephen Harper? He was saying he's only going to have small. Remember, Harper held up his fingers like only tiny little deficits. Okay, tiny. That's all. Trudeau was only going to have a couple of very, very tiny little deficits. What a lie. I mean, what a giant lie. And then remember talking about Trudeau and his lies. Oh my God, how much time do we have if we're going to talk about Trudeau and his lies? Do you remember Trudeau standing in front of the press corps and said, I never talked to Jody Wilson Raybould. I never I never tried to dissuade her from proceeding with the Lavalin. No, I never did that. What a freaking lie. Lie after lie after lie. Compounded lie after compounded lie. And now the latest one, okay? The latest lie. You remember all of the, this was actually a whole series of lies. Wait, get a little closer here. Whole series of lies about how many millions of shots of vaccine Canada had ordered. Remember standing there and saying, we're well ahead. We've got more, ordered than any other, and all that stuff, okay? All of these great promises. We've ordered all of these. We're in great shape here in Canada when it comes to vaccine. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. You Canadians are really well off with me in power. Well, we're beginning to find out that there were just a little bit of a lie involved in that, okay? And it's coming out very, very slowly. It's like pulling teeth from hens, and hens don't have teeth to get any information about this from the Liberals. They've been stalling, vacillating, doing whatever the hell else they could do to keep the information from us. The reason they're trying to keep the information is they don't have it themselves. But we did learn yesterday, all of those millions of COVID vaccines that we have ordered here? Mm-hmm. Well, to begin with, we're not sure when and if they're ever going to arrive, but apparently, now it's very, because we don't know even when they try to tell the truth, whether it's the truth or just another lie. But the best we can come up with is that only 6 million of those millions, only 6 million vaccination doses will arrive in Canada before the end of March. Now, in that everybody needs 2 shots, that means that there's only enough until the end of March for 3 million people. That's not even 10% of Canada's population. So while other nations in the European Union, the United States, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, Brazil, they'll all be getting these vaccines. Meantime, if we're lucky, we may get a few by the end of March. By that time, unless there's a hiccup, there's a couple of questions now about one of the vaccines. I'm sure they'll get that resolved. But in the meantime, in all probability, by the time we get our first shots, in all probability, something around 150 to 200 million Americans will have received their shots, about 2/3 of the population. Well over 50% of Australia's population will have been inoculated. Probably 50 to 60% of Britain's population will have been inoculated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, before we even get a single shot here. So, and I talked about this yesterday, and I know sometimes some of you people get me and say, oh, well, but this is a matter of life and death. Among other things, what it means is that while citizens, for example, seniors in long-term care facilities and those at higher risk in the United States, they're going to be among the first to receive the vaccine. They will have the vaccine probably by Christmas in many cases. So they'll be able to go to the Christmas parties. We've got a phone call here. Let's take a phone call. Yes, go ahead, please. You're on the air. Go ahead, please. You're on the air.
Hang on, Lowell.
How are you, sir?
Go ahead, sir. Please, right to the topic.
Hi, yes. I'm so glad to be living in America next to a nice developed country like Mexico that will have their vaccine in mid-December. Maybe people
Uh,
from Canada should fly in to Cancun, take a vacation, and get vaccinated and show how a country is managed.
well, that's not bad. Are you calling me from Mexico?
No, San Diego, just across the border from well-developed Mexico,
But
which
apparently,
Canada
but from what we understand, I mean,
seems to be the third world country now.
well, no, what the United States? You're joking. You guys are advanced of anybody else. You're going to have the vaccine. From all reports, your vaccine will start on December 11th.
Oh no, I'm making fun of Canada, sir. I'm saying the
Okay.
third world country is Canada. I mean,
Well,
I'm about to raise money for Halloween for Canada to raise vaccination funds for
well,
next year.
actually, I'm going to be honest with you. I've said this before. If in fact the United States gets widespread vaccinations long before we do here, the only way we in Canada can travel to the United, we can't drive down there now. I mean, don't ask me why. Makes no sense to me. But we can fly. So I can get
Of
on a
course.
plane here and I can fly to New York, let's say, or warmer climes, and go down and get a shot there, and then fly back to Canada. I couldn't drive over the border legally, just to Ogdensburg. But this is the point that I'm making here. Yeah, that you people in the United States will be probably half to two-thirds inoculated before we get our first shot here.
But you know what's
Congratulations, sir.
funny?
Congratulations. You Americans are way ahead of us here.
I was watching CBC yesterday, Power and Politics, and I was listening to Dominique LeBlanc. She said it was an unprecedented, never happened in Canada. Like SARS never happened, H1N1 never happened, bird flus never happened. But this never happened in Canada. And the CBC reporter never removed their gloves off, never asked those questions. You have a major manufacturing sites in Montreal, in Toronto. Actually, the manufacturing sites, because my wife is in bio healthcare. I mean, it's all the talent is in Canada, and a lot of it's coming to the United States. And I'm surprised. Pfizer has a huge headquarters in Montreal. If you drive in Montreal, you actually see the big logo Pfizer.
That's right.
It's almost like, yeah. So I lies, and people do not question it. People do not ask questions. They don't even ask for like a repercussions. Just not.
Let me deal with that, and I thank you for your call, sir. We appreciate it very much. I wish Canadians cared as much and would call me. Thanks for the call. I want to talk about that. Thank you. I want to talk about this plant. Now, here's another lie. Trudeau barefaced told us, quote, Canada doesn't, the reason that we're going to be late getting these vaccinations is that we don't have any facilities in this country to manufacture the vaccine. An outrageous lie. As, by the way, a leading professor at the University of Ottawa pointed out. In fact, a professor went so far as to call Trudeau a liar on this. He points out that the National Research Council, which is owned by Canadians, it's the federal government department, National Research Council in Montreal, has exactly the technology that is required to produce the vaccine produced by Oxford Astra Zeneca, which is one of the major providers, as we know. This professor says the fact is that this plant in Montreal, National Research Council, has the technical ability to produce exactly that vaccine. Not only that, says the professor, and this has been borne out by several others, this same lab in Montreal is a world leader. It was one of the first, in fact, according to him, it was the first manufacturing plant in the world to produce a vaccine and deploy it. So he says we do have a plant. Now, we have, okay, wait, I'm going to take an email in a moment here, but just before we do that, I want to point out that talking about lies, at the same time, I know it's a little convoluted here, but it's just unbelievable. At the same time, Trudeau was claiming that we don't have a manufacturing facility here. He was giving the plant in Montreal about $150 million to produce the vaccine. Now, apparently, the 150 was to expand to build a bigger plant in Montreal. So now he is saying, and it's another barefaced lie. Well, yeah, the construction was supposed to be finished by the end of November, and it's not going to be. Well, of course, one of the questions we could say, well, listen, this is a government project. Your government's in charge of the construction. It's your bloody plant, your construction project. Why didn't you finish it in time? But at any rate, this is the excuse. Except now we're finding out that too is a lie. That in fact, this plant right now, and I'll explain to you why they're not, this plant right now, if they had the license, could produce perhaps not as many as with an expanded plant, but could certainly start producing almost tomorrow COVID vaccine, even in its smaller state. So that too is a lie, that we can't do it because of the reason that the plant is not producing the vaccine is, guess what, folks? We never signed the deal. What happened is that Astra Zeneca went to almost all nations on the planet and said, listen, we're producing this vaccine. It looks very promising. Would you like to sign a deal with us that would allow you and your country to manufacture this vaccine? And by the way, because it's a pandemic, we will forego the fee. Almost every nation, sane nation on earth, signed it, except we didn't. So the reason that we're not producing vaccine in Canada is because Trudeau never signed the agreement which would allow it. Oh boy. Okay, let's take another phone call here. Yes, go ahead.
We
please.
have Christine on the phone for you, Lowell.
Thank you. Christine, thank you for calling.
Hi, how are you, Lowell?
Go ahead,
I know you don't want to answer
topic.
that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, all of the things you're saying about Trudeau and what a liar he is and a prick that he is, that are we supposed to believe anything he says? What about his isolation camps that he claims he's not building for these COVID-infected people?
Oh, no, you know what? We shouldn't. Don't spread that kind of stuff, please. Okay? That's nonsense.
It is the truth, Lowell.
No, it's not.
It is the truth.
That's
if you go on,
no.
You know what?
I'm not going to allow. I'm not going to allow people to spread this. You know, he's got plenty of criticism. He's not building concentration camps.
I didn't say
ridiculous.
Concentration camps. What
Let's
I
move
said
on.
was he is building.
No. Okay. Goodbye. I'm not going to talk, folks. I'm sorry. I appreciate the call, but I'm not going to use this program to spread this stupid, this stupid stuff that's making the round. We are not building concentration camps in Canada, okay? Stop it. This is what, John and I have been talking about this with the websites that are cropping up. This only harms us. This deflects from the real problem. The real problem is that we've got a prime minister here that we cannot trust. He's totally incompetent. He is lying to us. But we are not building concentration camps. Please, let's deal with the real issue. Just the same problem we had when all of this was occurring. Most Canadian attention was focused on Donald Trump. We got all our own problems here. Let's deal with the real problems, okay? Come on, let's have some emails. Yes, John, emails, please.
Text says, let's not overlook the fact that Trudeau blamed Harper for our lack of facilities to manufacture the vaccine.
Yeah. Surprise, right?
By the way, the number here, 613-413-2217. Text or calls are welcome. Email is lowell@blasttheradio.com. And we got an email from Lisa who says, why does Trudeau have so few doses of a vaccine? Perhaps it's in line with his globalist perfect utopia he's trying to create, like the old TV show Logan's Run of the 1970s. Everyone over 30 heads off to the carousel. There must be a few exceptions to the rule because he's over 40. There is no sanctuary. Sarcastic mode off.
Well, actually, I mean, it's a real puzzle. Why would he only order 6 million doses? Because, people need 2 shots each. So that's only 3 million people by the end of March. Why would he do that? It just makes absolutely no sense. And by the way, I don't know if it's a lie or not, but we are certainly being misled. We'll get another email in just a moment. Being misled. And now, all of the stories are coming out about how we're going to be at the back of the bus or, 2 or 3 buses behind. But now we're being told, we'll start getting these in January. Yeah, but, I doubt it very much. But if we do, it's going to be so few that it's not going to make any difference. If we do start receiving some vaccine sometime in January, I'll be very, very surprised. But we know that there'll be very, very few. Not until the end of March. And even then, we're not sure how many we're going to get. Emails, John, you have some more emails here.
Text says, Lowell, where is all the vaccine money gone?
Well, they poured about $150 million into the plant in Montreal, into the National Research Council lab in Montreal, supposedly to have it expanded. That's where a good chunk of the money has gone. The expansion was supposed to have been completed this month. It will not. It's a government project, surprise, surprise. But that's where $150 million. I think they also pumped some more money into a lab out in Saskatoon. The problem is that, if you're talking about Saskatoon and other plants, this is a long way down the pipe. Here, the problem is that while other nations, even including Mexico and Brazil and European, these are all going to have widespread vaccinations underway before we see our first vaccination. That is not right. That should not be happening in Canada. Any more emails coming in? How do they text here?
You can text at 613-413-2217. Email Lowell at BlastTheRadio.com. And we are keeping an eye, of course, on Lowell's Facebook page, so your comments there do get passed on through me. Glenn, in fact, on Facebook says, any way to confirm that we, Canadians, could actually purchase COVID vaccine?
I'm not sure what he means. No, first, but the other part of the equation, and we've talked about this many, many times, I know you're sick of it, but not only do we not know when the vaccines are coming in, except they're going to be late, nor how many we're going to get, but we still don't have a national coordinated plan. And this is so serious, I'll tell you how serious it is, that at long last, even the CBC is beginning to express concern about this. I was really surprised to see some CBC hosts a couple of nights ago really become frustrated with the Liberals who still couldn't give her any answer. And I was, so what I've been saying all week long is obviously the rest of the media seems to be catching on. Yeah, we're going to be very late. Not only are we going to be late, but we don't have a plan. There's got to be, and I keep pounding this, I'm sure you're driving you crazy, but we've got to have a national plan coordinated with all of the provinces, as almost every other nation, sane nation on earth has done. We haven't even done that. I got to take a moment here. We're running short of time. I just want to alert. I know a lot of people, a lot of you are very interested in acquiring my book as a Christmas present. I'm hearing from some of you on that. I just want to alert you that we are running short of supplies. I made this announcement a couple of days ago. So please, I don't want people to be disappointed. If you're interested in the book, it's very easy. There's no shipping charge anymore. Just lgreen.ca. But do it now because we are running short. I'm glad to say we're running short. A lot of stores out in the valley still have it, and we'd love it for you to support local business. And talking about local business, Shields, if you are in the market for any kind of appliance, major appliance, small appliance, whatever, Shields in Pakenham, shields.ca. They have a huge warehouse. Pakenham's a small place, but the warehouse for Shields is big. They've got all of the major brands in stock. No delay on delivery. If they don't have exactly what you want, they'll give you a loaner. And the prices are all not the government rebates. You got to be careful if you're buying from the big box stores, because you're shipping money off to God knows where, China. But at Shields, the money stays locally. This is a family operated business. Shields.ca. Check them out, folks. If you don't believe me, just check out the website. You'll be very pleasantly surprised. Any more emails coming in or texts, John?
Dean on Facebook says, if you think people are angry now, just wait until the vaccines arrive, and 90% of the Canadian population will have to wait months to get it. And Terry says, if we ever get COVID vaccine, Trudeau will lock down the vaccine factories.
Oh, boy. Excuse me. I don't know, John. Sometimes I just despair. It's just, and I said this yesterday, I think that we in this country deserve better. I really do. We're a good, hardworking, honest people here. And I just think that the leadership is just abysmal. I have supported Doug Ford, and I think generally speaking, he's done a good job. And I think most of the premiers have done a good job between a rock and a hard place. Mistakes have been made. There's no question about it. But it's hard to know. I mean, on one hand, we've got medical authorities and many others saying there should be a total lockdown. We've got the business community and many others saying, no, 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 you can't put more business people out of business. So they're trying to walk this tightrope. Meantime, we've got the prime minister, the federal government that should be in charge of all of this, just, you know, almost staying out of it. They're just they're not giving us any answers. There's no plans. And in order to get any information, as I say, it's like trying to pull hen's teeth. They just won't tell us what the plan is. And somehow or other, we have to drag this stuff out of us, but out of them. I just don't know. It's very frustrating. There's no question about it. On another issue, maybe I shouldn't get into this, but I have to. We are being told that the spread of COVID depends largely on individual behavior. And I think they're absolutely right. If everybody did exactly what we're supposed to do, the virus would die out. If we stayed, away, we wore the mask when we're supposed to, washed all of this stuff, then the virus would die. And very clearly, we're doing a hell of a good job here in Ottawa. By the way, I haven't said this before, but those of you who live in Ottawa and the Valley should give yourselves a big pat on the back, because we're doing a hell of a lot better here than in most other places in Canada. Very clearly, for the most part, in Ottawa and the area, we are doing the responsible thing. We are keeping our distance. We are wearing the mask when we're supposed to. We're washing our hands. We're being careful. We're not visiting. We're not traveling, etc. And you can see it. So, at people who don't think that any of this makes any difference, have a look at the difference. Have a look at the way that's what's happening in Toronto, in the area, and what's happening in Ottawa. Just have a look. I mean, it's working in Ottawa because very clearly most of our people are doing what they should. In Toronto, they're not obviously paying attention. Big rebellions in Toronto, and look at what's happening. So there's evidence right there. But they say that it's up to individual responsibility, and it is. But now we are being told that so-called racialized residents are at higher risk of COVID. Well, if in fact these minority communities have higher rates, and apparently they do. Now, I understand that there may be some other factors, poverty, overcrowding, et cetera, but if in the end it depends upon individual behavior, then surely we have to look. So what I'm saying here is, look, if there's a higher incidence of COVID in racialized communities, minority communities, it's got to be because of the behavior of people in those communities. I mean, people, no matter what your income or what your culture or what your color, wash your hands, wear the mask, stay away, do what you're supposed to, and your rates will drop. If you don't, your rates will go up. But don't blame the rest of us if rates are going up in certain communities. Don't blame us. Look at the mirror, please. That's the message that I have. Centennial Glass, the other sponsor, I want to thank them so much. A big decision on behalf of these businesses. I mean, are we going to, Green is a well-known, staunch conservative, which means that liberals hate him. And so liberals aren't going to do business. So it's a risk for these businesses to sign on to a guy like Green. And I really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. And Centennial Glass has been with me for more than 20 years. God bless them all. If they support me, I would really love it. If you support me, think that it's important what I'm saying, then if you can, support the local business. Whether it's Centennial or Shields or any other local business, God knows they need it. Every time, I've said this before, every time I drive by the big box stores, and the parking lots are jammed. Jam the parking lot of local business, please. Thank you all. And thank you, John. By the way, John, you have a better, improved phone system now.
We do.
Explain.
We do. I had a couple of snafus in there, and I apologize to our first caller, but I got that figured out real quick. So basically, the way it worked, when people would call in order for them to hear you, I had to mute my microphone and crank the speakers in the studio in order to feed the phone. Now, when they call in, I don't need to do that. They can hear you. You can hear them. And the best part is, while the caller is on hold, there's no need for Lowell to panic and get to the call. The caller can hear the show just fine while they're on hold. So
we're getting there.
Slowly but surely. Thank you for your patience, listeners.
By the way, I really appreciated Casey Jones yesterday. keep that in story. Every time when I feel really down, when things are really going bad, just play me a little chorus of Casey Jones. It'll cheer me up.
I will make that happen. No problem.
Thank you, John, and thank you all. We'll be back.
Thanks for tuning in to the new No Holds Barred show on BlastTheRadio.com. And get the show on demand with the Lowell Green Podcast. Available on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and more.